Here's a short recap of part 5 of the Pong miniseries. First, we created a widget blueprint called WBP_pause. It's a simple widget blueprint. It just has a canvas panel with one text element that we titled pause, and then a background blur. One thing to note is that on the Z order, the blur is set to 0, but on the text element, it is set to 1. And that's so the text will basically be in front of the blur, and everything behind it will kind of get blurred out. Next, we created an input action called IA_pause. It's just a digital boolean, but you got to make sure you check the box for trigger when paused. And that's so you can not only enter a pause state, but also get out of it when you're done. Then in our input mapping context, we created a new slot that we filled with the IA_pause action that we just created, and then we mapped it to some keys. In my example, I used the P key, and then my gamepad pause button as well. From there, we went into our player blueprint, and on the event begin play, we created a widget that we used the WBP pause as the template, and then we return that as a reference variable called pauseRef. This is important so we can pull the widget on and off as we need it, so we need to store it as a reference. Then we simply called our IA pause action. We moved into a flip-flop node, and then under the A channel, we get a reference to the pause widget, and then we add it to the viewport, and then we set the game to be true for paused. Under the B channel of the flip-flop, we remove from parent that pause widget, and then we unpause the game. And that basically completes the pause functionality for the prototype. From there, we created the boost functionality. We first created a material called M_boost. It's just a simple red translucent material multiplied against a scalar, just so we have some visual indicator that the player is currently boosting so the paddle moves quicker. The code is very simple. We're just using the movement scalar that we created in the first video, and then we basically are changing it from 20 to 50, and then we're setting the material of the paddle to use that boost material. When we're done, we set it back to 20, and then we set the material back to the standard emission, and that basically completes the code for the boost functionality. Then last but not least, we have the spin functionality. This one's a little trickier. We basically used a timeline, and then the timeline is updating the paddle's relative rotation along the z-axis. The timeline is pretty simple though. It's just a single float with 3 key values. The first one is at 0, 0, and then we go from 0.25 to -20 degrees, so we're basically rotating the paddle back a little bit. And then the final one is at time 0.75, so 3/4 of a second, and then we're going to 720 degrees, which is 2 rotations. So then basically with that, we can basically spin and rotate around. We can pause the game, and we can hold the shift key and move quickly. And just like that, we've added some extra gameplay mechanics to our project. Stay tuned for part 6.